On today's show, we journey to a place that's rich in duck hunting traditions, a century in fact.
They have to make sure the hair is ready.
And next, it's a father-daughter hunt. Well, make that father and daughter 1, 2, 3, and 4.
When you put the pheasant in the pan.
And look who's cooking in the home kitchen this week. Daughter Laura, joined by her mother Denise. It's a pheasant recipe that's a favorite. And our Minnesota-bound classic this week revisits one of nature's greatest spectacle, fall migration and the wonder of it all. Those stories and more next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's Select GMC dealers.
Hi, everybody. Raven and I welcome you to the show. You know, when you think of historical places in Minnesota, you're probably thinking of buildings, for example. But in this story, we take you to a historical duck hunting spot. Yes, duck hunting. It's called the St. Paul Pass.
Nifty places, memorable spots. Minnesota has a bunch of those. But this place, this narrow strip of land, is hallowed ground if you're a Minnesota duck hunter. It's a place called St. Paul Pass.
It's always been kind of famous. My dad and Carpy, they bought it 40-some years ago.
Carpy was Reed's grandfather and Dean his father, both die-hard duckmen who coveted the St. Paul Pass.
There's a 1,200-foot point, and there's only really about 3 acres here total. But the point cuts the lake in half. It's always been a natural flyway.
Natural because the St. Paul Pass is located on North 10 Mile Lake near Fergus Falls in western Minnesota. So what's St. Paul have to do with it? The answer dates back to 1920, when a group of duck hunters from St. Paul owned the pass. Since then, the private duck club has changed many hands, and even corporations such as General Mills once leased the place. But the name has stuck. And a century-old clubhouse still stands.
This is the original cabin. It's over 100 years old. It's always been here. It's been remodeled a few times. No running water. There's a couple of beds and some heat and a refrigerator and a stove, and that's about it.
If only the duck shack walls could talk. In a way, they do.
1984. Some guy named Ron Shera was in Elbow Lake and he wrote an article.
You looked a little younger too.
Look at that. You've got a half a century of guests here.
Duck Club member Dennis Delzer remembers.
Well, the first time I hunted it, it was super good hunting. I can sit here in the blind, watch the sun come up, watch the ducks fly off the end of the point, and never shoot my gun and still have a great time. And that's what it's all about for me now.
Indeed, if the ducks are migrating come autumn, the good hunting is thanks to this natural peninsula. It's on a migratory path. Hunters hunker by decoys, crouch in blinds, and wait for ducks to fly by or pass over, hence the term duck pass.
I spend as much time as I possibly can during the season. I started coming up here in 1993. It's all about the tradition and the lore. You always think back to our forefathers and the people that were here before us.
To love duck hunting is to love chilly dawns and raw autumn winds, winds that bounce life into lifeless decoys.
St. Paul Pass. Here's why you come here.
Some ducks fly too high, but some do not. The morning flight is on, a ducky version of rush hour.
There's some ducks coming right at us.
Never hit either one of them.
My eyes aren't as trained for ducks as my fellow hunting partners here.
Duck flights wind down, of course. Duck seasons come to an end. But the duck places in Minnesota, historic in their own way, still rekindle memories of duck hunters past or enrich the lives of duck hunters present. It's been that way for 100 years here on the St. Paul Pass. When we return, deer hunting is a tradition in many families, including this one. In this case, a tradition of father and daughters.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers, Ice Force, Star Bank, Radco Truck Accessories, and by Evinrude, the official outboard motor of Minnesota Bound.
Welcome back. As we like to say, deer hunting is a family tradition in Minnesota. So we will introduce you to a very special family, a deer hunter who takes many daughters deer hunting.
It's said a daughter may outgrow your lap, but she'll never outgrow your heart. In the Stramming family, this dad knows the old saying, times 4.
See, this is what I get to deal with. They have to make sure the hair is ready.
Meet Randy Stramming, father of Natalie, Libby, Caroline, and Lauren. When the deer season opens, dad and daughters share in a very special family tradition.
For me, it becomes our own little, I'll call it me and my girls' deer camp.
The Stramming Deer Camp has been in the family since Randy's father purchased it in 1951.
There is that 12-year gap between you guys from the oldest to the youngest and those kind of things. But when they all were able to come up hunting together was cool. And for me, it was really cool because I'm like, gosh, all my girls are going to be here.
Ever since the girls were young, Dad included them in his hunting adventures. And soon, 4 women became passionate about the outdoors.
Each one of them unique personalities, and they're all different from the oldest to the youngest.
Wait, let's see, who all has an iPhone now?
I refuse to get one. I'm not going to be playing Angry Birds in my stand.
Neither am I.
Just fun to see the new people come in and always kind of retell the same old stories. There's always still fun to hear and laugh about.
A lot of teamwork and a lot of sisterly love and helping each other out and encouraging each other and just sharing stories.
I think my favorite part of it, not just the family part of it, was it's being in my stand, and it's just the peace and it's the calmness and it's just getting away and just enjoying nature and enjoying God's beauty out here.
When we actually start hunting with my dad, we sit 2 years in the stand with him just to get the feel and how real deer hunting is and the safety aspects of it.
These sisters have teamwork down, but what about sibling rivalry in the woods?
At the end of the day, who wants to have the biggest buck?
I think
But Dad does.
I think I've gotten 5 deer.
Amen.
I have yet to get a deer, but duck hunting I've gotten a goose. I have to get on there.
I've been hunting for 10 years and I've gotten 5 deer, so game on this year, Nat.
What's really tough is when they're all 4 gang up on Dad, and then I have to take them all on in a fun bickering way.
Now all the girls have their own deer stands, while Dad watches, listens, and waits.
And we just heard Lauren shoot over here. So in a while here, we'll go check and see what happens.
He ran right through here. So I shot him here and shot again when he got over here. Two came right down the middle here.
Yeah. Did it come right to you?
Yeah, as I shot and I missed.
I want to see where that was then, okay?
Close, but no deer, it seems. But the tradition goes on. And yes, they have outgrown their father's lap, but never his heart.
This is for Ron Scherer, remember? We're going to make sure this is good.
I'm so excited to cook with you today.
Coming up, it's Laura and Denise Shera in the home kitchen. They found pheasants in the freezer, thanks to yours truly, and they're sharing a favorite family recipe.
A little bit of wild rice.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Connecticut.
Time now to go wild in the kitchen, and I am going to reveal to you my absolute favorite pheasant recipe, cooked by my lovely wife Denise and daughter Laura in the kitchen.
It's a special edition of Wild in the Kitchen, ladies and gentlemen, because we are here revealing the master chef behind all the wild game that's been in Ron Schera's freezer all of these years, and it's my mother, Denise Shera.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
I'm so excited to cook with you today. So we are going to be cooking a recipe that's been special to you and our family for quite a few years, and we're using pheasant.
Yes, and it's a cranberry salsa with pheasant.
Okay, so what are the first steps to getting started?
Well, prepping your pheasant, and Ron does an excellent job of that, getting it all in these bite-sized pieces, which we will dust in flour, which we have over here. And the rest is the prep for the salsa. And so it's 2 steps, pheasant in the oven and the cranberry salsa stirred to warm.
All right, let's get started with the pheasant.
All right. Well, Laura, this is what we do. We take the pheasant tenders and we're going to dust them in this flour mixture. 2 cups of flour, and if you will add some thyme.
Okay, we're gonna sprinkle in some thyme. Black pepper, is it just a pinch or?
A teaspoon. And the same with the Lowry's.
Lowry's. Just gonna give a couple dashes in here.
Just mix that together, and then we take the pheasant and just dust them in this and get them ready to saute.
All right, looks like our pheasant's ready for the saute pan.
Let's do it. When you put the pheasant in the pan, you want it to sizzle in the butter, but be careful that it doesn't burn. You just want to do it a minute or 2 on each side and brown it up. You don't cook it through to the center. You'll do that when it's in the oven. All right, they're ready for the oven, 350 degrees, 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, now that our pheasant is in the oven, we're going to whip together our cranberry salsa.
Yes, and everything's in the prep, and it's 2 tablespoons of the pecans, roasted, lime zest, and the cilantro, 2 red peppers roasted, and orange zest, 2 tablespoons, and 2 tablespoons of orange juice, a little bit more in there, but that's all right.
Freshly squeezed orange juice.
And of course, the main ingredient,
raisins.
Yes.
So I'm just going to give this a little stir here.
Yes, and you can see how colorful it is, and in 10 to 15 minutes, it'll be ready to put on your pheasant.
All right, so to the stovetop we go.
Here we go. And Laura, at the end, I'd like to add a little bit of sweet to it to cut down the acidity of the orange and the lime zest.
Just about a tablespoon or 2. Ooh, look at that, smells good.
All right, Laura, it's time to eat.
Now you're saying the magic words.
Yes, the pheasant's ready. Add a little salsa
And I notice you like to serve this with a little bit of wild rice.
I do. All right, Laura, time for a try. Let's see if it measures up.
Now this has been in our family for over 20 years.
It has.
So good. Cheers to you, Mom, for being such an amazing chef all these years. And we're happy to share Shera family recipes with yours. So don't forget to get wild and have some wine in the kitchen.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Border View Lodge, Ellsworth Creamery, and by Totem Resorts.
Time now for a Minnesota Bound Classic, and let me preface it by saying the other day on a lake I watched baby loons waiting to migrate. Their parents have already left, and sort of amazing. Which brings up our next story about migration. Always amazing.
Some go by land, others by sea, while those that can fly take to the air. Migrating wildlife. For 3,000 years, historians say, we have watched and wondered about this natural phenomenon called migration, and we still do.
I would describe a caribou as a northern legend because you see this kind of landscape, this kind of environment, and just the journey that they have to partake in order to survive.
These swans have had to discover their own migration routes because they did not originally have adults to follow. So they've been pioneering to wherever they can stay safe and alive through the winter.
Yet mysteries of migration continue. Who knows where to go? Who knows when to go? Who knows how to get there?
I like to be able to tag fish and see where they go.
Some of the questions, 3,000 years later, remain unanswered.
My personal belief is that there's been a lead cow, you know, someone in that matriarchal group that'll just keep moving, and then their calves follow, and all the bulls follow the cows west.
We do know sandhill cranes have followed Nebraska's Platte River for more than 3 million years.
In my mind, what happens here is the cranes are on their way north, and they need a place to be able to sit down and get all the energy they need to be able to complete their migration.
In truth, wildlife species that migrate do so to survive, but the trip itself can be full of danger.
Probably the most important thing to really realize is that their ability to survive all the elements and do it so gracefully. And this is a daily chore, whether it be ice, rain, snow.
When these Franklin gulls head south from Agassiz National Wildlife Refuge in northwest Minnesota, the journey ahead is, by any measure, remarkable.
Because they are the longest migrating gull in the world, they do migrate all the way down to the west coast of Chile, southwest coast of Chile, South America. So they have 3,000 miles to fly down that far before winter sets in.
Indeed, feats of migration are almost beyond our comprehension. Long ago, scientists guessed that tiny hummingbirds hitched a ride on the backs of geese to go south. Today we know some migrating birds like mallards may fly at altitudes of 20,000 feet or more, way above oxygen. On Africa's plains, herds of wildebeest and zebras may take 250-mile journeys twice a year. In the Arctic, caribou herds are known to walk 350 miles in 10 days. Even the monarch butterfly, so light and delicate, travels 2,000 miles in 60 days. And who would guess this small duck, the blue-winged teal, is capable of flying 3,800 miles in 1 month. From orca whales to king salmon, from bald eagles to backyard robins, from V-shaped goose flights to night-flying coots. These are among the wonders of migration, and wonders never cease.
Yes, it's always amazing when they leave us, and always amazing when they return in the spring, right? Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Sherrill, and of course, always, my nervous Nellie star of the show today is none other than Raven. Right? Yes.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. For more information on these stories and more, catch us on the web at mnbound.com.